Hello, I'm Harry Riley. Welcome to Harry's 10-Minute Tales. This is called Blackjack, Ballantine by Harry Riley. Do I believe in ghosts? I would have said no, I do not. That is until the day before my 14th birthday. Now not only do I believe in phantoms, but I have actually fought them face to face in a macabre dance of death. Let me tell you how it all began. I was holidaying at the home of my Aunt Gwen in the Scottish borders and enjoying the fresh clean air close to the sea. There were very few dangers there for a fit young lad like me, but my aunt warned me to avoid the ruined castle in the nearby top woods. She claimed folk had gone missing from the ancient castle that had been gutted by fire in the early 1970s, and the locals believed it to be haunted. I nodded politely and promptly forgot her words. One of my favourite hobbies was sketching, and so, armed with my rucksack containing sandwiches and a small notepad, I set off one bright morning to acquaint myself with a pleasant landscape. Without realising it, I was gradually edging towards the grim woods. Soon I was into the thick undergrowth beneath the trees, and the sunlight disappeared. Presently I came to a clearing at the top of the hill and saw the ruins of a large castle. I sat down to sketch it, and then, foolishly, decided to explore. Pushing aside the mass of ivy surrounding a doorway that was still intact, I forced my way inside and found myself in a big room. Astonishingly, there were two men sitting at a long wooden table studying an old map. Both wore what I mistook for fancy dress, of tartan garb and swords. One man was a red-bearded giant, with only one good eye. He was pointing at the map with his silver-handled dagger. The other seemed more regal, in both costume and feature, and wore a flat bonnet. They both looked up as I entered, and the elegant one thundered at me, "Come on, boy, state your business." I replied, "My name is Mark Howard from Surrey, here on holiday, sir." The bearded giant clutched at his heart, and the next second his dagger was flying straight at my head. Instinctively I ducked and felt a trickle of wet blood oozing down my neck. The blade had clipped my hair as it thudded into the old oak door frame. The other fellow stood up and approached me, shaking his head, and explaining that the man I had just insulted with my name was Blackjack Ballantine. The giant was all for killing me there and then, but his partner, who said he was James, stayed his hand, saying, "Wait, let the English do it tomorrow. Think of the irony if they kill one of their own." Blackjack calmed down, and it seemed I was to be spared. He glared at me and said, You're young and strong. You'll survive." James went on to say he had 50,000 men camped on a nearby hill, and tomorrow would be a decisive battle. I had a choice: fight with them or die. I naturally chose to live. He withdrew the dirk and gave it to me for a present. The giant just shrugged and turned away in disgust. That night I sketched the big man as he sat talking with his fellow soldiers. James had camped his men high on the hill, looking down on the English army, led by Thomas Howard, Earl of Surrey. He had a great advantage and sent down smoke to confuse the enemy. Unfortunately, he couldn't lower the elevation of his cannon, and his opponents, the Lancastrian and Cheshire longbowmen, were mercilessly accurate, slaughtering the Scotsmen in droves. I was compelled to join Blackjack and the King's men in that last fatal charge down the hill, and ran helter-skelter, shouting and screaming for all I was worth, onwards towards certain death. All around me men were yelling and dying, and blood was spraying everywhere. The noise was deafening, with cannon exploding, and the crash of steel on steel. Friend was butchering friend in this mad melee of confused battle. We were all drunk with bloodlust. As we reached the line of enemy pikes, we were hemmed in on all sides. Blackjack hacked down 3 men with his 2-handed broadsword as if they were paper dolls. This mad, red-headed giant seemed invincible as he cut and thrust and crashed his way through the jungle of sweating bodies, and then he was attacked and fell under a pile of men. Miraculously, when the dust and smoke had cleared, he was upright again and grinning as he invited a foe to come and get him. I turned and felt a tremendous blow on my head and was left with the dead and dying. But that night awoke and staggered away to be found by my Aunt Gwen's searchers next morning at a mossy burn in a woody dell. They say I was delirious and more dead than alive when they found me, sleeping soundly for 2 days. Later, as my aunt came into the bedroom with the doctor, I was filled with dread. "Take him away," I yelled. "It's Blackjack Ballantine." The giant, red-bearded man put down his doctor's bag and laughed. "You're right, I am a Ballantine, but Blackjack was my ancestor, killed at the Battle of Branxton Moor in 1513, along with his liege, King James IV. The doctor grinned at my aunt, and after studying me for a short while said, "You're strong, you're young and strong. You'll survive." Aunt Gwen returned after his departure, smiling at me. "Silly boy, you must have fallen and banged your head. That's where all the blood came from. And where did you get that notion? Calling him Blackjack, indeed. You'd never met him before. In your delirium you rambled on about the king's men and being in a great battle. Look, such nonsense." I asked for my rucksack. Clumsily opening it, the silver handle blade fell out, still covered in blood. Removing the sketchpad, I showed her my drawing of Blackjack Ballantine. It was a perfect likeness of the good doctor. End.